The whisper that stopped time. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council was filled with voices. Hundreds of alien leaders sat in curved rows, their scaled, feathered, or glowing bodies shifting as they argued over trade routes, borders, and endless disputes. The ceiling stretched high above, a dome of shining glass where stars shimmered faintly, reminding everyone that beyond this chamber lay the vast, dangerous galaxy. At the far end of the chamber, one figure stood out. Because no one wanted him. There, Captain Marcus Hale, a human diplomat, stood straight, hands folded behind his back. His dark uniform was simple compared to the jeweled robes and glowing armor of the council members. To the aliens, humans were still new to interstellar politics, too young and too reckless to sit among the ancient empires. Whispers moved around the room whenever Marcus spoke. Some mocked him, some ignored him, and many smirked when his words were cut short. But Marcus stood tall. His face was calm, his eyes sharp. He had fought in wars before becoming a diplomat, and the way he carried himself made even the loudest alien glance away for a second. Still, to the council, he was nothing more than a human. That was about to change. Near the middle rows, a small alien girl sat beside her mother. The girl's skin shimmered pale blue under the chamber lights, and her large silver eyes watched everything with quiet curiosity. She couldn't have been older than 8 in human years. She wore a simple white robe, unlike the other children, of noble houses who dressed in gold and gems. The girl had been silent the whole meeting. But now, as Marcus shifted his stance, her eyes locked onto him. She tugged at her mother's sleeve. Her mother, a tall alien noble with a crown of thin, crystal-like horns, leaned down. "What is it?" she whispered. The girl pointed with a small trembling finger. Her voice was soft, almost too quiet to hear. But in the vast chamber, in the middle of a pause, her words carried. "Mom, that's him." The sound was small, yet it fell like thunder. The council chamber went silent. Voices died mid-sentence. Even the hum of floating drones seemed to fade. Hundreds of alien eyes turned to look where the girl was pointing, at Marcus. Marcus blinked, confused. He hadn't moved. He hadn't spoken. But now every gaze in the chamber was burning into him. The girl's mother froze, her pale hands tightening around her daughter's arm. Her expression turned from surprise to fear. She quickly lowered her daughter's hand, whispering sharp words in her native tongue. The girl's eyes filled with tears, but she shook her head stubbornly, whispering again, "It's him. I know it's him." The silence deepened. Some council members leaned forward, whispering nervously to each other. Others stared with suspicion, their ridged brows furrowed. A few even rose from their seats, claws tapping against metal rails. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. He had been ignored and mocked all day. Now he was the center of attention, and it was not the kind of attention he wanted. He stepped forward slowly, his voice calm but firm. "What's going on? Why is everyone looking at me?" No one answered at first. The alien noblewoman held her daughter tight, as if afraid Marcus might step closer. Then from one of the higher rows, a council member stood. He was tall, with skin like cracked stone and glowing yellow eyes. His voice was deep, rumbling through the chamber. "The child has spoken," he said, "and if her words are true, then the old prophecy lives." Murmurs exploded across the chamber. Some laughed nervously, shaking their heads. Others whispered fast, their voices sharp with fear. Marcus frowned. "Prophecy? What prophecy?" But no one explained. The girl, still held by her mother, stared directly at him. Her silver eyes shimmered with strange light. She whispered once, more, but this time her words carried through the silence like a blade cutting the air. "They will come for him." The chamber erupted. Dozens of voices shouted at once. Some demanded Marcus be removed. Others demanded protection. Guards moved nervously, hands on their weapons. Marcus stood in the center of it all, heart pounding. He didn't know what the child meant, but he could feel the truth in her trembling voice. Whatever she had seen, whatever she knew, it was about him, and the entire galaxy had just heard it. The council chamber that once mocked him now stared with a mix of fear, awe, and suspicion. The whisper of a child had changed everything, and Marcus realized in that chilling moment that his life, and perhaps the fate of humanity, would never be the same again. The mother's fear. The council chamber was still buzzing with whispers after the little girl's words. Leaders of powerful empires argued with one another, their voices echoing across the dome. Some shouted that the child's words meant nothing, that children dreamed foolish things. Others demanded silence, insisting that prophecy was not to be taken lightly. Captain Marcus Hale stood in the center, his body tense. He had faced enemies on battlefields before, but this felt different. This was not an open fight. This was something deeper, something hidden. He kept his gaze steady, but his mind raced. The girl's mother clutched her child tightly against her side. Her long robe flowed around her as she tried to shield the girl from every curious eye. Her crown of crystal-like horns trembled faintly, betraying her fear. Marcus took a slow step forward. His voice was steady, but everyone heard the steel beneath it. "Why is the child afraid? What does she know about me?" The noblewoman's eyes flicked toward him, then quickly away. She whispered sharp words to her daughter in her native tongue. The girl whimpered but did not look away from Marcus. Her silver eyes locked onto him with strange intensity. Again, her small lips moved. "It's him, Mom. I know it's him." The noblewoman's face tightened, her skin paling. She stood quickly, pulling her daughter close. "Enough!" she shouted, her voice trembling but firm. "She is only a child, she does not know what she says." But the chamber did not believe her. Dozens of alien leaders leaned forward, watching closely. A few exchanged knowing glances, while others whispered about visions and seers. Marcus felt the weight of all those stares pressing against him. He clenched his jaw. He didn't like being a pawn in someone else's mystery. "What does she mean?" he asked again, louder this time. His eyes focused on the mother. "Why did she point at me?" The noblewoman's hands tightened around her daughter. For a moment, her face showed raw fear, fear not of Marcus, but of something greater. She shook her head slowly. "I will not speak of this here." Her refusal only stirred more unrest. One council member, a scaled reptilian with bright golden eyes, rose to his feet. "She must explain. The prophecy is forbidden to mention unless truth is near." Why would her child speak now? Others shouted back, some saying prophecy was nonsense, others saying it was destiny. Marcus turned his attention back to the girl. Her eyes shimmered with tears, but she didn't look afraid of him. She looked afraid for him. Her tiny voice slipped through the noise. "They will come for him. They already know." Marcus's heart skipped a beat. Those words struck something deep inside him. He had survived wars, ambushes, and betrayals. But the certainty in her voice chilled him more than any battlefield. The noblewoman pulled her daughter close and stepped backward. "She is only dreaming," she said quickly, but her voice shook. "Only dreams." But Marcus could see the truth in her trembling hands. She wasn't just afraid of the whispers. She was afraid of what might follow. Suddenly, the chamber doors slammed open. Heavy guards entered, their weapons glowing faintly. Their armor bore the symbol of the council, a star surrounded by chains. The commander bowed stiffly. "Remove the human," he ordered, voice flat. The demand sent shockwaves through the chamber. Some protested loudly, others supported it. Marcus stood taller, his jaw hardening. "Remove me? For what crime?" The commander didn't answer. He motioned for the guards to approach. Before they could reach him, the little girl cried out. She broke free from her mother's arms and ran toward Marcus. Her small hands clutched his uniform, her silver eyes staring up at him. "Don't let them take you. If they do, you'll die." Gasps echoed through the chamber. The noblewoman's face went pale as she rushed forward, pulling her daughter back with desperate hands. "Silence," she begged, her voice breaking. "Do you want them all to hear? Do you want him to be hunted?" The chamber fell quiet again. Every leader, every guard, every servant froze. Marcus's voice was calm, but sharp as a blade. Hunted by who? The noblewoman looked at him, her eyes filled with sorrow. For a moment, Marcus thought she might answer, but instead she turned her gaze away and whispered only 2 words. The darkness. Her daughter whimpered softly, still trying to reach for Marcus. The guards hesitated, unsure if they should continue. The council chamber was split, half in fear, half in curiosity, and in the middle of it all Marcus stood, a man who had been ignored only hours before, now suddenly marked as someone far more dangerous. The whisper of a child had shaken an empire. The fear of a mother had only deepened the mystery. And Marcus knew this was no longer politics. This was survival. The noblewoman had whispered it, but everyone in the chamber had heard. It was enough to make even the boldest council members fall silent. Marcus Hale stood frozen in the center of the chamber, his fists clenched. He had heard many names for enemies in his life: pirates, invaders, conquerors. But the way she said it, the darkness, made his skin crawl. The noblewoman quickly pulled her daughter close again, covering the child's mouth with her trembling hand. She bowed her head, refusing to meet anyone's eyes. One of the council members, a tall insect-like creature with sharp mandibles, hissed, "The darkness is only a story told to frighten children. Do not spread fear here." But an older voice spoke from the shadows of the chamber. A clerk, gray-skinned, frail, and bent with age, rose from his seat. His robes were plain, unlike the jeweled garments of the other leaders. His eyes glowed faintly blue as he looked at Marcus. "Not a story," he said, his voice dry as dust. "An old warning, a prophecy." The room stirred. Dozens of alien voices whispered, arguing. Some dismissed him as a fool. Others leaned forward, hungry for answers. Marcus turned toward the clerk. "Explain." The clerk's gaze lingered on Marcus for a long time, as if weighing whether he should speak. Then, with a sigh, he began, "Long before this council was built, before many of your empires rose, the seers spoke of an age to come. They spoke of the darkness, a force that devours not worlds but hope itself. No army could stand against it, no shield could block it. Only one would resist, not an empire, not a king, but a human." The chamber erupted again. Laughter, anger, fear. Many shouted at once, "Humans are too young. This is madness." The prophecy is nothing but old lies. Marcus felt every eye on him again, burning like fire. He stood straighter, refusing to look away. The old clerk's voice cut through the noise. They called him the chosen defender, a man who would rise when the galaxy stood on the edge of death, a man who carried both fire and mercy. His gaze sharpened on Marcus, and when the child spoke, she pointed to you. Marcus's chest tightened. He had been a soldier once. He had fought for Earth, defended colonies, seen blood spilled on alien soil, but he had never thought of himself as destiny. He was just one man. "I don't believe in prophecies," Marcus said firmly, his voice echoing. The little girl's voice slipped through the noise again. "But I saw you." Everyone turned. She had pulled free from her mother's arms and stood bravely, in front of Marcus now. Her silver eyes shone like stars. "I saw you in my dreams. You were standing in fire, but you were not afraid. You held back the darkness when no one else could." Her mother gasped and tried to pull her back, but the child resisted. Marcus crouched slightly, meeting her gaze. His voice softened, though suspicion burned in his heart. "Why me? You don't even know me." Tears filled her eyes, but she smiled faintly. "Because you're the one. I just know." The chamber was silent again, but it was a heavy silence this time. A silence full of fear, doubt, and expectation. From the back rows, another council member spoke, his voice dripping with anger. "If the prophecy is true, then the darkness will already be watching him. Do you want to invite that doom here?" The noblewoman flinched at the words. She clutched her daughter tightly again. finally pulling her back to safety. Her face was pale, her eyes full of sorrow. She whispered harshly to Marcus, almost pleading, "Leave, before it's too late. If the darkness knows who you are, they will come." Marcus's jaw tightened. He was a man who had faced death before. But this was something different. Something larger than war, larger than politics. He didn't believe in prophecy, but he couldn't ignore the fear in the woman's voice, or the truth in the girl's eyes. Suddenly the chamber lights flickered. A low hum rattled through the floor. Drones buzzed nervously, their sensors flashing red. The council members froze. "What is that?" someone shouted. Marcus's instincts screamed. This wasn't just a power failure. He had felt this before an ambush. The child pressed her face into her mother's robe, her small voice trembling. "They're already here." Marcus turned toward the great doors of the chamber. Beyond them, deep metallic footsteps echoed, slow and heavy. Not like guards, not like soldiers. Something else. The prophecy was no longer just words. The shadows had arrived. The attack begins. The great doors of the council chamber shook as the heavy footsteps drew closer. The sound was slow at first, echoing like thunder rolling through a storm. Then it grew louder, sharper, almost metallic. The council chamber, usually filled with shouting and arguments, was silent. Every alien leader froze in their seats. The guards gripped their weapons tighter, their glowing blades humming faintly. Captain Marcus Hale kept his eyes fixed on the doors. His instincts screamed danger. He had heard sounds like this before, during raids on human colonies, when enemy machines tore through defenses. He knew what was coming even before the doors groaned and burst open. The chamber gasped as a squad of tall, armored figures stormed inside. Their bodies were black like obsidian, their faces hidden behind jagged helmets. Their eyes glowed faint red like dying embers in the dark. They carried long weapons that hissed with energy, not the kind used by any empire Marcus recognized. The council guards rushed forward, shouting orders, but they were cut down in seconds. The intruders moved with deadly precision, their weapons tearing through armor and shields like paper. Screams filled the chamber. Alien leaders stumbled back, their jeweled robes dragging across the floor as they fled to the higher levels. Others shouted for their soldiers, but it was too late. The assassins had already spread through the hall. Marcus's hand went instinctively to his belt. He wasn't armed, not in the council chamber. Diplomats were forbidden from carrying weapons. But his training kicked in. He scanned the room quickly, eyes sharp. Beside him, the little alien girl clung to her mother's robes, trembling. Her silver eyes were wide with fear. She whispered, barely audible through the chaos, "They came for him. I told you." Her mother wrapped her arms around her protectively, but her gaze fell on Marcus. Her fear was not just for herself. It was for him. The assassins were not here for the council. They were here for the human. Marcus crouched low as one of the armored attackers raised a weapon toward him. The beam cut through the air, searing past his shoulder and smashing into the wall behind. He rolled to the side, grabbing the fallen spear of a council guard. It was heavier than human weapons, but he adjusted his grip quickly. Another assassin lunged at him. Marcus met the strike head-on, slamming the spear upward and twisting the shaft. The alien attacker crashed to the ground, its helmet cracking against the stone floor. Gasps filled the chamber. Many had doubted humans could fight. Now they watched Marcus move like a soldier born for war. "Stay behind me," Marcus shouted, to the mother and child. His voice cut through the chaos, steady and commanding. The noblewoman hesitated, torn between fear and shock. But when another assassin charged, Marcus blocked the strike, spun, and drove the spear into its chest. Sparks burst from the armor. The creature fell, twitching, then went still. The little girl pressed her face against her mother's robe, whispering again, "It's him, just like I saw." The assassins regrouped, focusing all their attention now on Marcus. Their red eyes burned brighter, locking onto the lone human who stood defiant among them. Blaster fire streaked across the chamber as council guards tried to fight back, but the intruders ignored them. Their target was clear: Marcus ducked, rolled, and used the heavy spear like an extension of himself. He moved with speed and precision no one expected. The council chamber was no longer a place of politics. It had become a battlefield. Yet even as he fought, Marcus noticed something. The assassins didn't cry out in pain. They didn't bleed like living beings. When their armor cracked, sparks burst from within. Wires, machinery. They weren't soldiers. They were machines, and someone had sent them. The noblewoman cried out as one assassin broke through the guards and charged directly at her and her daughter. She braced herself, shielding the child. Marcus reacted instantly. He sprinted across, the chamber, spear spinning in his grip. He struck the machine's arm, shattering its weapon, then slammed the spear's butt into its chest. The impact sent the assassin crashing backward into the council steps. The crowd erupted, some in terror, others in awe. Marcus stood in front of the mother and child, his chest heaving, sweat trickling down his brow. He turned his head slightly toward them. "You're not safe here. We need to move now." The noblewoman stared at him, her lips trembling. She had spent her life hearing that humans were weak, reckless, unworthy. But now, in this moment, she saw the truth. This man was something different. The girl's small hand reached out and grabbed Marcus's sleeve. Her silver eyes shone with tears, but her voice was certain. "Don't let go. You're the one who has to live." Marcus tightened his grip on the spear. He didn't know why destiny had chosen him or why this child believed in him, but he knew one thing. He was not going to die here. The assassins regrouped at the far side of the chamber. Their red eyes glowed brighter as they marched in formation, weapons raised. The council chamber trembled with every step. Marcus planted, his feet firmly, standing between the machines and the girl. He raised flight across the stars. The council chamber was chaos. Sparks rained from the walls, smoke curled through the air, and broken guards lay scattered on the floor. The assassins' glowing red eyes searched the chamber like predators. Marcus Hale stood tall, the heavy alien spear gripped in his hands. His breathing was steady, his body tense. He had fought enemies before, but never machines like these. Still, one truth remained the same. Hesitation meant death. The little alien girl clung to his sleeve, her silver eyes wide. "Don't let them take you," she whispered. "If they do, the darkness wins." Marcus met her gaze briefly, then looked at her mother. "We can't stay here. You'll be killed." The noblewoman nodded quickly, fear etched across her face. But still, she hesitated. Her people were known for grace and wisdom, not battle. She had never trusted humans before. Yet now, this human was the only shield between her daughter and death. Another wave of assassins surged forward. Their weapons hissed with burning energy. Marcus didn't wait. He grabbed the noblewoman's arm with one hand, the child with the other, and pulled them toward the side corridor. "Move!" The assassins roared forward, their heavy steps shaking the chamber floor. Blasts tore into the walls as Marcus led, the mother and daughter into the narrow passage. The corridor twisted downward, lit by flickering blue lamps. Their footsteps echoed as they ran. Behind them, the sound of metal claws scraped the stone floor, closing in. "Where does this lead?" Marcus demanded, his voice sharp. The noblewoman gasped for air as she ran. "To the docking levels. Ships." Good. Ships meant escape. Ships meant survival. But the assassins were fast. Too fast. Their metallic feet clanged closer and closer. Marcus spun, thrusting the spear behind him. Sparks erupted as it struck one machine's chest. The impact slowed it for only a moment. "They won't stop," Marcus muttered. The child's voice rose above the pounding of footsteps. "They're not just machines. They're shadows of the darkness. They don't stop until their target is gone." Her voice cracked. "Until you are gone." Marcus tightened his jaw. He didn't like being anyone's target. But worse, he didn't like dragging this child into danger. At last, the corridor opened into a wide hangar. Dozens of sleek alien ships floated on energy pads, their hulls glowing, faintly. The hangar was chaos too, civilians fleeing, guards shouting, and alarms blaring. Marcus scanned quickly. Most ships were already sealed, engines flaring to life. He spotted a smaller vessel near the far edge, its ramp still lowered. "There!" He pointed. The noblewoman hesitated. "That ship is not ours." Marcus turned, eyes sharp. "Do you want to live or argue about rules?" She said nothing more. Together they sprinted across the hangar floor. The assassins burst into the hangar behind them. Panic swept through the fleeing aliens as the machines cut down anyone in their way. Blaster fire echoed, but the assassins moved like shadows, unstoppable. Marcus reached the ramp first, pulling the child up before her mother. He spun back as one assassin leapt forward, claws reaching for the noblewoman. With a roar, Marcus slammed, the spear into its chest, sparks exploding across its armor. The machine staggered back just long enough for her to scramble aboard. Marcus followed, hitting the ramp controls. The hatch slammed shut just as another blast struck the hull. The ship shook violently. "Can you fly it?" Marcus demanded. The noblewoman slid into the pilot's seat, her hands trembling on the glowing controls. "Yes, but they will follow." "Then make them chase us," Marcus growled. The engines roared to life, and the ship lifted from the hangar floor. Alarms screamed as the vessel shot forward, through the energy shields and out into the endless black of space. For a moment, there was silence. Only the hum of the engines and the trembling breath of the noblewoman filled the cabin. The child sat strapped into a seat, her eyes fixed on Marcus. "They won't stop," she whispered. "The darkness knows who you are now." Marcus sat beside her, gripping the armrest tightly. He had been hunted before, but never like this. "Then, they'll learn I don't run easy." Suddenly, red lights flashed across the ship's sensors. Dozens of dots appeared, enemy signatures. The assassins had ships too. The noblewoman's voice shook. "They're locking on." Marcus leaned forward, his soldier's instincts sharp, as ever. "Then keep us moving, we just need one chance." He looked at the little girl again. Her small hands gripped the seat, but her eyes were steady. She didn't look away. "You saw this, didn't you?" Marcus asked. She nodded slowly. "I saw us running. I saw you fighting. And I saw the stars burning." Marcus's chest tightened. He didn't believe in prophecy, but her voice held no doubt. Outside, space lit up with fire as enemy ships descended, their red lights chasing them through the dark. The hunt had begun. The final revelation: the stolen ship tore through the black, void of space, engines burning bright. Behind it, red lights glimmered like hungry eyes, enemy vessels giving chase. The cabin rattled with every sharp turn. The noblewoman gripped the controls, her pale hands trembling but steady enough to keep them alive. Her crown-like horns reflected the glow of warning lights flashing across the dashboard. Marcus Hale stood behind her, bracing himself against the wall as the ship jolted. His jaw was tight, his body alert. He had been in space battles before, but this was worse because this time the enemy wasn't after a fleet, a base, or even Earth. They were after him. The little alien girl sat strapped into the co-pilot's seat. Despite the shaking ship, she stared out at the stars, her silver eyes calm, almost glowing. Marcus leaned closer to the noblewoman. "Where are you taking us?" She didn't look at him, her voice low and urgent. "Somewhere safe." "Somewhere forbidden." "Forbidden?" Marcus asked, frowning. "That doesn't sound like safety." The noblewoman's lips pressed into a hard line. "It is the only place the darkness fears to go. The ancient shrine." Marcus's chest tightened. He didn't like the sound of shrines, prophecies, or sacred places. He liked hard facts and battlefields. Yet the assassins chasing them weren't just machines. They were something else, something built for a single purpose: to kill him. And if the girl's whisper was right, this shrine might hold the answers. The ship shuddered violently. As a blast hit the rear shields, warning lights screamed. The noblewoman twisted the controls, sending the ship diving between two asteroid belts. Rocks spun past, some as large as cities, others like jagged knives. The enemy ships followed. Marcus clenched the spear he had carried, From the chamber. His eyes darted to the girl. Why me? Why did you point at me in front of everyone? What did you see? The girl turned her head slowly, her gaze fixed on him. Her voice was soft but steady. Because you're the one in my dreams. I saw you standing in fire holding the light. When everything was falling apart, you didn't run, you fought. You're the one who can hold the artifact. Marcus frowned. Artifact? The noble woman's voice cut in sharply. Don't speak of it here. But it was too late. Marcus had heard enough. You've been hiding something. What artifact? What does this prophecy have to do with me? The noble woman's eyes flicked toward him, full of fear. The shrine holds a relic older than the council, older than any empire. It is said it responds to only one kind, a human. Marcus's heart pounded. He had heard enough myths in his life to know how dangerous they were. They divided people, fueled wars, and killed millions, but the assassins, the prophecy, the girl's whisper, none of it was coincidence. The girl's soft voice carried again, clear despite the alarms. It will only answer to you. The ship broke through the asteroid belt, streaking toward a dark, barren world below. Its surface was cracked and lifeless, shrouded in mist. No cities, no lights, only silence. The noblewoman guided the ship down toward a jagged mountain range. At the base of a hollow cliff, a massive gate loomed, carved with strange, glowing symbols. Marcus stared out the viewport. That's the shrine? The noblewoman nodded. Few know of it, fewer dare enter. Her voice dropped lower. But this is where your path begins. The ship landed hard, skidding against the stone. Engines hissed, smoke curling from the vents. They had only moments before the enemy followed. Marcus leapt down the ramp, spear in hand. The air was heavy, thick with strange energy. He felt it buzzing against his skin. The little girl hurried down after him, her mother close behind. The massive gate loomed above them, carved with spirals and lines that pulsed faintly with light. The noblewoman placed her hand on the stone, whispering in her language. Nothing happened. She turned to Marcus, her expression grim. It won't open for me, or for anyone else. Marcus stared at the glowing carvings, unease twisting in his chest. You're saying it'll open for me? The little girl stepped forward, her silver eyes glowing faintly in the mist. Yes, only you. Behind them, the sky lit with red streaks as enemy ships broke atmosphere. Time was running out. Marcus placed his palm against the cold stone. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the gate shuddered. The glowing lines blazed brighter, spreading like fire across the surface. The mountain groaned as ancient mechanisms stirred awake. The ground trembled. The gate split slowly down the middle, opening with a deafening rumble. Inside, darkness yawned like a waiting maw. Marcus pulled his hand back, heart pounding. The noblewoman and her daughter stared at him with wide eyes. You see? She whispered. The prophecy was true. It's you. Marcus shook his head, frustration boiling. I'm not chosen. I'm not some savior. I'm just a soldier who's tired of fighting wars. The little girl's voice was soft, but it pierced through him. But you are the one who stands when others fall. Above them, the enemy ships circled closer, beams of light searching the mountains. Marcus gripped his spear, staring into the shrine's darkness. He didn't want destiny. He didn't want prophecy. But one thing was certain. If this place held answers, he had no choice but to step inside. He looked at the noblewoman and her daughter. Stay close. Whatever's in there. It just made me part of it. With that, Marcus stepped into the shrine as the sky shook with the roar of enemy ships above. The darkness within whispered to him. Humanity's answer. The shrine swallowed them in darkness. The stone walls pulsed faintly with blue light as if alive. Symbols glowed along the floor, marking a path deeper inside. The air was thick, heavy, humming with ancient power. Marcus Hale moved cautiously, spear in hand, the noblewoman and her daughter close behind. He didn't trust shrines, prophecies, or destiny, but the walls around him whispered like they knew his name. The little girl's silver eyes reflected the glowing lines. She held his sleeve tightly. "It's here. The artifact is waiting for you." Marcus's jaw tightened. "And if I don't want it?" Her voice was soft, almost sad. "Then the galaxy will burn." Before he could answer, the chamber shook. Dust rained from the ceiling. Outside, enemy ships had landed. The assassins were coming. The noblewoman's voice trembled. "We don't have much time." "Go, Marcus." Reluctantly, he pressed on. At the end of the glowing path stood a pedestal, carved from black stone. Upon it rested a strange object, a cube of shifting light, constantly changing shape. It hummed with energy that made his chest vibrate. Marcus stared at it, uneasy. "That thing doesn't look friendly." The noblewoman shook her head. "It is the heart of the veil. It was hidden here for ages. Legends say only a human can awaken it." The little girl stepped closer. Her voice was steady. "Touch it. It belongs to you." Marcus hesitated. He was a soldier, not a chosen savior. He had lived through blood and betrayal, not myths and miracles, but the pounding of heavy metallic footsteps echoed through the shrine's halls, closer and closer. He didn't have a choice. Slowly, Marcus reached out and touched the artifact. The instant his fingers brushed its surface, a shock of light exploded. Outward. The entire shrine blazed with energy. Symbols across the walls flared like fire. The noblewoman shielded her daughter, both gasping in awe. The cube melted into Marcus's palm, sinking into his skin like liquid light. For a heartbeat, he felt nothing. Then suddenly he felt everything. He felt the stars, the hum of engines far beyond, the heartbeat of every soldier who had ever fought for Earth. He felt the weight of humanity's struggles, victories, and pain. The heart of the veil didn't just give him power, it connected him to his people. Marcus staggered back, his body glowing faintly. His eyes burned with fire, his veins humming with strange energy. The spear in his hand pulsed brighter, reforged by the artifact's touch. The girl smiled through her tears. "I knew it, you're the one." The noblewoman's voice trembled in awe. "The chosen defender?" Marcus clenched his fists, his voice low. "I'm no savior, I'm just human. But maybe that's enough." The shrine doors thundered open, as assassins poured inside. Their red eyes locked onto Marcus. Dozens marched forward, weapons raised, but Marcus didn't step back. He lifted the glowing spear, his voice calm and steady. "You wanted me. Now you've got me." The first assassin lunged. Marcus struck and the spear tore through its chest like paper. Energy ripped from his hands, blasting the machine apart in a wave of fire. More charged, but Marcus moved faster than ever before, each strike fueled by the artifact's power. The chamber shook with the battle. Sparks, fire, and shouts filled the shrine.